Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, where you can awaken your mind to clarity and success even in today's life challenges. We're here to provide insights and solutions that will help you live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hello, everybody. This is Joanne Victoria with another amazing episode of the Sanity Project podcast. You're here to discover a life of clarity, confidence, sanity, and entrepreneurial success. But first, a commercial. If you want to discuss options on how to have me as a personal or business coach, just email me at askjoannevictoria.com/ask. Now, our guest today is Phillip Mountrose. Phillip Mountrose and his wife Jane are holistic coaches, energy healers, and authors of numerous books, including their latest, which is called The Loving Power of Your Soul, a guidebook for realizing your true potential. And I think that's appropriate for today. The mission of Awakenings Institute, which is what they own, their nonprofit organization, is to facilitate the unique gifts that each individual brings to and the nurturing and allowing their gifts to blossom. They also work with individual clients as well. Their extensive website is gettingthrough.org, and it is extensive. And welcome to the show, Phillip Mountrose.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Joanne.
Well, I'm glad you were available to be here today.
My pleasure.
So, yeah, the loving power of your soul. This is, when we hear talks about love, you must love yourself. You must pretty much love. That's the first and last person you have to love, because we are all. What does your book say about that?
Well, we want to say and encourage it coming from our heart. Rather, it's saying you must love yourself. It sounds like something a strict school teacher would tell you, and you would rap your knuckles if you didn't do that. If you weren't a good boy or girl. But it really is coming from the heart. And one way of understanding this loving power of your soul, we're all humans with a spiritual being behind us. We're kind of living this life with something much larger coming through us. Is if you are living more from your soul, you're connected more with your heart. This is very different from CNN and the news, which is very head-oriented, and American stuff is very, and at times you need your head. But I want to take a minute to go through this, because this might flush it out, especially for listeners of your podcast, to be more sane, a way to be sane in an insane world, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you have to use your left brain and think about things. Yes, but putting that aside, living your life now, you want to come from the heart and be in the moment and what it's telling you intuitively, what feels right in an open way. Now, if you're sleep deprived or on too much caffeine or something, you might need to kind of step back and take a moment. But generally speaking, it's communicating to you every moment. Then you go to your mind, you go from your right brain, which connects with the heart, the big picture, to the left brain, which discerns, and then you can kind of think things out like, gee, should I listen to the Sanity Project today? Well, I'm really feeling like I should. And you can kind of figure out later, some good reason to do so, that makes sense if needed. So that's the proper order to follow your heart generally. And that's a way that you connect with your soul. And we have specific ways we describe in the book how to do that too.
So why is a spiritual approach to healing so powerful? I mean, I know that we've got you have lots of tools on your website, but not all of them, one works better than another, or they work the same. It's like if you've got this big circle, you have all your tools out there, and you can choose one and it will work, and another and it will work. And people are going, why do all of these work?
Well, I think I'm going to offer an example or sort of an experiential here in a moment, but just taking a step back, why spiritual healing? Well, if you think that we're here for a reason, if you think there's an order to the universe, that there's a reason that things are the way they are, even though there's a lot of randomness and chaos, although that's part of the way things are too with free will. If there's a reason to all this, if there's a reason why we value love and certain values and have relationships and things are important to us, if there's a divine order to that we can have this conversation today and elevate it, then that's important. And that's where, when we're out of alignment, which we are all at times because everyone's been traumatized, the 8 billion people on earth, when we're having those experiences, that's part of what we're here to learn and heal and grow from. And that's going to come most fundamentally from this spiritual level. So let me take you through a little, what we call a little process, a little soul connecting process here. When you're out of sorts, when you're what we call in the mud, shall we say, when life is too busy, you're distracted, there's too many problems, things are in overwhelm. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
That we say is like being in the mud, and you can get a picture of that. In fact, at an astral realm, an emotional realm, you get pictures, right? They're not in your body. Where did those pictures come? They're a different level of reality. And that doubt, fear, whatever you're experiencing, you imagine that, right? And then imagine lifting out of that mud.
Okay.
And you go to a wonderful mountaintop. And you're on this mountaintop, and it's panoramic, it's beautiful, it's the perfect temperature. You get a big picture, right?
I'm with you
and
so
now
far.
Imagine just going back and looking at the old self down in the mud with the big picture view and all the fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
It's different, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Khalil Gibran said you can get to the top of the mountain and then you can really begin the climb.
Okay.
Well, that might be some food for thought as people are listening wherever they are to the podcast of going to that mountaintop while they're driving or listening or reflecting on their life. The big picture of why am I here? Well, the mountaintop, which again, the heart, which connects to the soul up there on the mountain, the big picture, has a lot of insight and awareness for you.
Okay. I am, so do you view that view as the most important element in personal growth? Being on top of the mountain and looking back at yourself?
Well, that's one metaphoric way of connecting with the big picture, the heart-centered picture. And the more you do those kind of processes, that's one way of doing it. Because as I said at the beginning, just being in your heart is wonderful. But how do you do it? Well, I just gave a kind of a concrete way. As that becomes something really familiar to you, then that's more the go-to automatic rather than being in the mud and being lost and having a lot of negative thoughts and replaying and rehashing things.
Some people love to stay in the mud, don't they?
Right. And part of it is we have to give an alternative. And the whole thing about gratitude, which is another wonderful, loving way of being, as we all know, is it's appreciating what you have, not what you don't have. What do I have? Well, I have some breath. I have people I know and love. I have the blue sky. I can drink some water.
Mm-hmm.
I can breathe some air. I can have some wonderful thoughts and feelings. I can talk to Joanne Victoria or get more sane on the Sanity Project.
So I am thinking or not thinking about, or not thinking.
That's excellent.
Yeah. And
good job.
Thank you. I'm getting there. How do people are confused right now because they're not clear, therefore they're confused. And one of the issues is they try to come out of confusion, excuse me, and solve it with left brain solutions, which won't work. I mean, you and I don't think they will work. And then they don't work. And then people get upset and they get angry, and they go down that mud path. So how do we show people that there is a distinction between, living in the left brain or living in the right brain, and what they can do from either side that's beneficial?
Well, of course, you need both the left and right brain. You
Right.
need the holistic approach, and it could be a masculine, feminine, sometimes called polarities. You need them both. I think a good quote from Einstein, who most people kind of think as a very left brain, brilliant person, he said, logic can take you from A to B. Imagination can take you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're connected with the spirit, when you start to think of all the possibilities in the world, Joanne, it's amazing. We just know a sliver. Science knows a sliver. It's a little piece of things. And there's so much more. There's so much we don't know and so much more we're discovering. And when you go on this process of wondering, what will I discover today? Or sometimes, as we say, you'll be surprised and delighted if you open yourself up to this path. I know at first it may seem like a risk. Leo Tolstoy, the great Russian writer, novelist, War and Peace, at the height of his career in his 50s, he had written War and Peace. He was very wealthy, very literate, and he became very disillusioned. He had a midlife crisis, and he thought life was meaningless. I mean, he said he was sort of in the decline of his art. He had sort of accomplished everything. He was the ultimate, successful person and looked up in society. But what did it mean? It was all transient. It was all kind of shallow to him at that point.
Right.
And he looked around at people who were not as literate and as educated as him, and he realized a lot of them were much happier than he was.
What you don't know won't hurt you.
Right. Yeah, he was too left-brained. And what he realized, though, he had a profound insight, which really helped cure his depression, which is that a lot of, quote, simpler people, lower class people, less educated people, whatever, were connected more with the infinite. They had a sense of wonderment and oneness, which he lacked. And he realized with that, and that goes back to connecting with your soul, that gives you purpose and fulfillment. So every day, if you know that you can connect with your heart and soul, and every day is going to be an adventure, you don't know what's going to happen. You really don't.
Correct.
We don't know what's going to happen, by the end of this interview.
No.
It's a few minutes, much less tomorrow and next year. So if you have that openness with your heart, your heart will guide you, will help you know what you're here to do. That's what you're here to do. It's there in the moment, in that excitement, if you open up to it.
Yeah, I was going to say I work hard to stay in my heart, but it shouldn't be hard work. But it's like, oh, okay. And I do look to stay in my heart. I do use my intuition all the time. I mean, it's like it really is easy to follow it. People don't believe that because I don't know, they don't trust it because they're untrustworthy themselves, I guess, because bad things have happened to them. But it's like, it's the only thing that, one of the top 3 things in my life that give me peace. Because, I mean, I'm talking about everything, food to eat and colors to be around, books to read. I read a lot of fiction. I like fiction because I hear the, creative stuff. And then I'm going back to the beginning where there's something that is on my Kindle right now. I can't remember, but we're talking about, old things and how they came about. And it's like, there's just a lot of, it's the same thing as today. There's nothing new. There's the awareness of your intuition, but it was around, 2,000 years ago. We just called it, not just, but we called it, listening to your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And these things are duplicated throughout time. And I think we need to pay more attention to that. Because there is nothing new. It's just glamorized. Each generation has a little different take on things and so on. And, we've got something new. No, you don't. If you come from the heart, there's only one way to do it.
Yeah, the approach is still time immemorial, that central place that connects us with everyone and everything. Maybe you were saying it was hard work to connect with heart. Maybe it should be called heart work.
There we go.
You can read War and Inner Peace.
Correct. Yeah, I wish I had my Kindle here, but it's really amazing. I'm reading this nonfiction book, and it's like, oh, okay. This has all been going on. Not that I didn't know that, but this has all been going on forever. And how are we going to use that energy to change things?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Philip, how are we going to use that?
And that goes back to where we started.
Yes.
The heart knows what from that place it has wisdom that our mind cannot. We can use our mind secondarily to figure things out. It's a wonderful tool, but the heart connects to our intuition,
yes,
which connects to our higher mind, which connects to the infinite. So, and that way you're trusting, and you're trusting in the moment. And if you feel you are connected with your life path, what you are supposed to do, which is being invented moment to moment, but there's sort of a general guideline and blueprint because it's doing the things that you're good at and that you have gifts for. If you're doing that, then that's the compass. That's the plan every day. And there's some big pictures and some goals as possible guideposts and things. And you're on track. Why do you know? Because you feel it. You don't think it. You can't think it out.
No. You
can't get there from there, but you can get there from your heart. If you find your heart, that's where your treasure is, right?
So, if even half the people in the world went to their hearts every day and looked from there, the world would change.
Our institute, our nonprofit organization you mentioned earlier, Awakenings Institute, was based on a vision of seeing the world where everyone's gifts are honored and nurtured, including nature's. That would be a different world, and that's a world that eventually I think we're going to, perhaps pretty slowly, but 50% would be great, but I don't think it even takes that much. A very small number of people can make a big change in the world with kind of like a laser, the power of a laser. If you focus it and it becomes a laser, the power it can cut through steel.
Well, it's probably closer to 5% with all the
So you can join that love revolution, so to speak, that heart revolution, and come more from that place. And yes, you do need to stand up for injustice, but focus more on the heart, which will show you the way.
Mm-hmm. I know. I guess I was fortunate enough to live in Marin County for, quite a few years. And they were, I don't know what they are now, but it was a basket of alternative therapies. I'll just label them that. Mm-hmm. And I was exposed to, I didn't even know what I was exposed to until later when I was able to put some meaning to it. But it was like an opportunity, a golden opportunity for me. I mean, I didn't even know who the Dalai Lama was until I discovered him in Marin County. And I remember looking at a video someone was playing and he was speaking. And I was going, oh, I'd like him for a teacher. And the room just turned around. It was like, hello, what? What did I do now? Because I'm always opening my mouth. And they said, that's the Dalai Lama. I said, who's that?
Right.
So I got the explanation for him, and then they went further, and I did see him in San Jose once, a few days, and it was like, oh, yes, this is it. So I was guided there, so I don't question.
There you go. You were guided there, and it touched your heart. And if you follow those signs, which are all around us, if you listen to them and follow your heart again, you'll be surprised and delighted where it takes you. It might be circuitous. It may not be at all where you thought you were going, but you keep following that, and that's the path. We have a holistic coaching and healing program, my wife and I at Awakenings Institute, and a lady was thinking about taking our program years ago. We've been offering it for many years. It's now online, but this was physically at our home office at the time, and she was hoping it would be something because her marriage was difficult. She used to be a lawyer. She was burnt out. She was hoping maybe spiritual healing, maybe I'm interested in this. Could it possibly work? And once she came and really started learning and studying and opening her heart, she just loved it. And she went into a coaching career and found someone she really liked to be with and everything. And it just happens that way. It's not all perfect and easy and a bed of roses, but
no, it's not.
You learn things along the way that you needed to learn.
Absolutely.
Rather than resist it and be in the mud, you go more on the mountaintop and navigate from there.
Well, let's talk to people about your website, gettingthrough.org/holistic. Getting through, GETTINGTHRU.org. There are many, many things. People could get lost on there and spend hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources, free trainings, courses, a lot of videos and blogs, and there's a place where people might want to begin. There's a free kit for spiritual healing and an excerpt for our Loving Power of Your Soul book, the new book, and a holistic EFT tapping video and some resources. And you can get that at tinyurl.com/spiritual-kit, tinyurl.com/spiritual-kit. So that's a free place where people might want to begin, because we do have a lot of materials. It's a very extensive website.
Certainly is. But I mean, all the questions will be answered there, I think, on your site.
Right. We write and do videos and teach courses and about these very topics: life purpose development, spiritual healing, soul development. That's our specialty. What we've been doing for about 3 decades now. My wife and partner Jane Mountrose and I.
Yeah, that's amazing too. But after a while, there's no time involved. You know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm so glad that I did that. I was a school teacher and educator years ago. My wife was an architect, and we got burnt out in our own ways of that profession. And we're just glad we just kept following our interest in doing things, even if we weren't going to get paid for it. We were just following what our next step was.
You just have to trust your heart that it's going to work. Because I trusted, I had spirit tell me to move here.
Right.
And people go, why are you doing this? You're leaving your children behind, your whatever was going on at the time. And it was like, I was so excited to move. So excited. And I don't regret a minute of it.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Your excitement in a practical way, even though sometimes it can seem a little far-fetched. And we uprooted where we're living in Central Coast, California. We used to live in Sacramento, California. We didn't like it, and we just said, where would we like to move? And we found this place and said, we're just going to start there. We don't know anyone there. And we just followed it, and it worked out wonderfully well. It seemed like a big risk and a lot of leaps of faith on different levels. But we got here now 22 years ago, haven't looked back, don't want to live anywhere else.
No.
So glad we did it.
No. I moved here 2006 in the same way that I moved from upstate New York to California, and I never looked back either way.
Right.
Just haven't.
Yeah, so you're doing a lot of following your heart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great role model that you're displaying on the show. That's great.
Okay, so tell us about your podcast.
We do have a kind of a venture, a Facebook show weekly Sunday. It's called the Awakenings, which is our institute, Awakening Circle of Love and Light, Awakening Circle of Love and Light. And we do live shows on the topic of spreading more love and light in the world, and we try to do it in very practical ways each week. So that's something where people can connect with us live when we do a little live show. And it's live on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific. But they're, of course, replays because they're in the Facebook page, Awakenings Circle of Love and Light.
So it's facebook.com/awakenings circle for people who want to find it.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Tell our audience one last thing or one first thing that they can do to use their spirit to heal.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the things to remember is to slow down and breathe, because when we're in the challenging place, sometimes panicky place, we tend to react quickly. So you may not know what's going on. You may be confused and bewildered, but just breathe and slow down and let the next step be revealed to you.
I think that's great advice, because even I get in, all of a sudden I'll get this bam, bam, bam of information. I'll wait, slow down, because I'm not clear. It's like I have choices and I don't like choices. I want clear direction.
Right. Sometimes it's clear and sometimes it takes a little time, sometimes a while to become clear. And that may be the message, just to wait, until they get a better, clearer sense of what's going on,
Yes. Okay. So Philip's email address is holistic, HOLISTIC @gettingthrough.org. The best website address is gettingthrough.org/holistic. And is there one last thing you want to tell our audience?
Well, remember, it's all going to work out one way or the other. You're going to be the hero of your own journey, and you can do it more consciously if you follow your heart. And I think you're going to be happy with the results.
And I think the results would be increased if you, as I always tell my people, listeners, take a pen and a pad and listen to this podcast again and take notes, because you have missed something that's important. You're going to listen to it and go, oh, I forgot that. And you don't want to forget that. You want to remember that. And this is the way you will gather more data into your right brain, and it'll all work out, because it's all going to work out one way or another, according to Phillip Mountrose.
Yes, it will be working out. Might as well let it work out in your favor, not resist and be disappointed, but to learn and grow from it.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here today, Phillip. It's been great.
You bet.
Bye, everybody.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com to listen to more podcasts. Check out Joanne's coaching programs and get a free copy of her report, 5 Steps to Achieve Life-Work Harmony. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.